session is designed to take the mystery out of gut health. So we hear about the microbiome, but what does it actually mean for our everyday health? In this talk, How Your Gut Shapes Your Health, we'll meet and hear about the trillions of microbes living in our digestive tract, learn how simple, practical habits in food, sleep, movement and stress can support them. And leading us through this is Luca Cuccia, founder and CEO of Injoy, a health tech startup revolutionizing gut health through AI and advanced microbiome science. Luca's mission is deeply personal. After surviving childhood cancer and later battling painful inflammation, he set out to empower others struggling silently with their gut health. A graduate in pharmacology and therapeutics from McGill University, he went on to become the youngest member of the Techstars Montreal AI program and was named one of Quebec's top 25 emerging entrepreneurs. He now leads a world-class team delivering dynamic microbiome insights through testing and AI-powered tools. Injoy has already been featured on Fox News, badgut.org, and works with Olympic athletes. But today, Luca is here with us to make gut science clear, practical, and relevant for all of us. So please join me in welcoming Luca.
I'm Luca, as Catherine mentioned. I'm a scientist. I lead a microbiome company called Injoy, heavily focused on microbiome testing, at-home gut health optimization. But what I'm here to talk about a little bit more today is translate a lot of what you most likely heard about gut health into something a little bit more clear, a little bit more practical. So, quick show of hands, how many people in this room have spoken about their digestion, about poop, about all these different topics amongst polite company in the past couple of weeks? Good, okay, we have a couple. Good, so what you'll hopefully understand through this talk is that gut health impacts everybody. And going to the bathroom, all these different habits, they're one of the few things that we can be absolutely certain that everybody on the planet is doing. It is influencing how you feel, your thoughts, your mood. Louder? Oh.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. Is that all right? I'm not breaking anyone's eardrums. Okay, beautiful. So yes, by the end of the session, I want you to feel very normal to talk about your gut, to think about it, and be selfish about the fact that gut health is one of the most important things you can be focusing on. So here's today's roadmap. So I want to talk a little bit about what gut health actually means. I'll introduce you to the microbiome, the trillions of tiny partners that we share our bodies with. And I'll talk a little bit about microbiome testing in a nutshell, what it can tell you, when to use it, when it's useful. And then I'll finish with some small habits that you can start tonight, hopefully take something home with you that you can implement right away. So the ground rules, keep in mind that bodies vary. The same food, the same habits will impact people differently, and that is completely normal. And two, this is general information. This is not medical advice. That's my quick disclaimer. So if you're currently taking any medications, please check with your clinician before making any changes, your practitioners. But ultimately, my goal is simple. I want you to walk out of here with clear information, more confident information, allow you to spot maybe the everyday choices you're making in your life and how they support not only your gut, but your overall health and well-being. So let's start with a clean definition. So when we talk about gut health, what do we actually mean? I like to think of it as three different things. It's a digestive system that runs on time. You know when you're going to go to the restroom. Hopefully you don't have too many aberrations from that period and less surprises. It's a community of bacteria, of archaea, of viruses, bacteriophage, and so on that are influencing not only your digestion, but your immunity, your mood, and creating important nutrients for you. And thirdly, it's a strong but flexible gut. So similar to what you're seeing over there, it's something that's resilient, it's something that keeps the bad offenders out and allows the good nutrients in, and overall keeps the body in a more stable sense. So it's these three pillars. It's comfortable, digests hopefully without too many issues, bathroom habits are predictable, blips are normal, that's totally fine. The whole point is that your body's able to rebound. It's balanced, meaning that the resident microbes in your bacteria, and other different types of microorganisms are working on cohesion. And thirdly, again, that resilience, the idea that it's almost like a small bouncer. It can make sure the good things come in, the bad things stay out, and overall keep you more stable. So how do you know when it's working well? Predictable, few emergencies, steadier energy, and you feel less hangry, you feel more energetic, and so on. What it's certainly not is perfection. It's not a flat belly, it's not someone who never experiences any gas, it's not someone that has, no bloating of any kind. It's not about being spotless, it's not about being perfect. It's about having a system, again, that when life happens, you eat something that doesn't agree with you, you're stressed, whatever it might be, you're capable of bouncing back in a rather timely manner. Why anyone should care. So this is a complicated diagram, but effectively what I want to convey to you is that your gut health is far more than just your gut. It's connected to your mood, it's connected to your energy, your immune system, your heart health, hormones, even your skin. So any small change, any small improvement you can make in your gut health will echo across the entire body. So let's meet some of the cast that are involved in the microbiome. So your microbiome is almost like a rainforest. It's home to trillions of different residents. Those are bacteria, fungi, archaea, viruses, bacteriophage. And similarly to a rainforest, which has many different areas, there's a canopy, there's the ground, there's prey, there's predators, there's things decomposing, there's things coming together. It all works as a beautiful system. And if one part of that collapses, you see the rest of it collapse as well. So it's a mix that's very personal. Nobody has the same microbiome as the person next to them. And most of the time, these microbes are supporting you through turning your food into nutrition, through vitamins, and so on. In terms of how they communicate with you, there's two lines. There's the nervous system, which you can see there's directly a connection from your brain to your gut. And then there's also the more chemical aspects. So any compounds that your bacteria are producing. If you're here for the previous talk, we talked a lot about short-chain fatty acids. Those are definitely a big one. The chemical messengers that are coming from these bacteria, and you'll see bacteria create these messages, they're able to go through intestinal lining and impact the rest of the body. Those are helpful because they help tune how the immune system acts. So how aggressively it might respond to a foreign pathogen, for example. Whereas the communication that's coming between your gut and your brain is more like a conversation. So interestingly, there's actually more information going from your gut to your brain than your brain to your gut. These systems are deeply intertwined. One of the reasons why we call the gut the second brain. So as a simple example of the chemistry that's here, when you feed your microbes fiber, they're producing these short-chain fatty acids, which we learned about earlier today. And short-chain fatty acids are almost like your body's reminder to reinforce your gut to protect against bad offenders, pathogens, bacteria, whatever it might be. What's interesting, though, is the impact of the food you're consuming will differ slightly person to person. Remember, bodies vary. The same food eaten by two different people will have various impacts, and it's because of the bacterial profile, the overall diversity, the overall flora that someone might have. And that's completely normal. There is no one-size-fits-all for gut health. That's why it needs to be personalized. And that's where the beauty is as well. It's not like your DNA. This is something that fortunately you can change, which means you can influence it with diet, lifestyle, stress adjustment, and so on. So this is a lot of different examples of various bacteria. Examples showing that, Lactobacillus rhamnosus, for example, can increase GABA, which is something that tones down the nervous system, reducing anxiety and depressive-like behavior. We have the short-chain fatty acid producing bacteria here. They are able to increase those compounds, which reduces stress and so on. So the body's influence comes from various places, but very heavily so from the gut microbiome. So ultimately, the advice is be a gardener, not a germaphobe. You really want to nourish the mix that you're sharing your body with. You want to keep it diverse and allow that rainforest to do what it does best, which is support the rest of you. So in terms of stool testing, what does it actually do? Has anybody here taken a stool test before? Okay, good to know. So it's essentially looking at the community of bacteria you have in your gut. So who is there, helps you understand how many different types, gives you an understanding of how they're changing over time. Selfishly, my company is the only one that shows you how they're changing over time. We ask you to take 3 samples, day 0, 5 days later, 5 days later, so we can see that transition because the microbiome is dynamic. It's not like our DNA. What it can't do is give you a diagnosis. There's no microbiome test. There are some stool tests, but there's no microbiome test that can diagnose you of much of anything. Instead, it's meant to provide you a deeper understanding of the systems that are at play in your body and essentially help you take that next step without trial and error. Start you with an objective starting point. And as we now appreciate a lot more, your microbiome is influenced by essentially everything. It's by what you eat, your lifestyle, your stress, and much more. And when you do take a microbiome test, you want to make sure you understand that context at the same time. What have you been eating? What are your routines? What are your symptoms? All of this allows you to contextualize the microbiome that you find yourself with. Does it look a certain way because you collected that sample incorrectly? Does it look that way because you ate something that didn't agree with you? This is all very important information to make sense of what's going on in your bacterial flora. And the field is certainly still evolving. So for us at Injoy, understanding the context in which your microbiome is living is deeply, deeply important. So when to take a test, certainly a question I get a lot. If you see symptoms that are persistent, sticking around, you don't seem to have an understanding of where they're coming from, that's a great reason. If you're trialing any changes, for example, if you're testing a new diet, a new supplement, that's always a fantastic reason to take a microbiome test. Or if you're perfectly healthy and just want to get a new starting point to then optimize, that's perfectly acceptable as well. We work with people who are experiencing deep inflammation with Crohn's disease all the way to Olympic level athletes, so it can fit anywhere within that spectrum. So our philosophy, at least at the company, is how do we get a baseline understanding of your gut? How do we help you understand the changes and how they're influencing you? And then give you the opportunity to then retest and see how those changes are influencing the system overall. You'll get recommendations on food, supplements, lifestyle adjustments, all of which are deeply personalized to you. If anyone has questions on how we built the AI, how it does this, I'm happy to talk about that more. But the optimization in the bottom line really is that microbiome testing is more of a compass. It's really to direct you in the right path for health optimization and allow you to make confident next steps with your goals. Cool. So I'm going to take a little bit more time and focus in on a few small areas that the microbiome is influencing. So first, we could talk about the immune system. So from the moment you're born, your microbes are teaching your defenses, your immune system, what is a friend and what is a foe. So you can think of this as almost like training. You go to the gym, regular low drama training. It helps your body remain fit, avoid injury, be prepared for when it needs to react. And what you'll see here is that the gut microbiome, these small little squigglies in the middle, are influencing various areas, not only your brain, but also your joints, calming down inflammation that might be present there, interacting with the blood cells that are in your blood through the production of short-chain fatty acids, and even areas like your lungs and allergic reactions. This image, it might look a little bit weird, but what it's really demonstrating is if you're looking into the intestine head on, so very much the same as if you're walking through the gut over there. This is your intestinal lining, this is your lamina propria, kind of the epithelial mucus layer, and then this is the interior. And you can see all the communication that's happening across it. Everyday example of how this influence works. Let's say you're traveling, you're very stressed. Having a healthier gut means that you'll most likely have steadier responses to those offenders. So instead of getting those common colds or anything and always being sick, your body is more likely to handle it quite well and not overcompensate for any changes that might be occurring. Cool. I want to talk about heart health and the microbiome. So the microbiome influences also your energy levels, your inflammation levels. One of the best things you can do to support that is consuming fibers. So I put one of my favorite fibrous foods up here. Kiwis are excellent. They include both soluble, which is fiber that is a little bit like gel when it mixes with water, and fibrous fiber, which is essentially fruit and veg. Definitely eat the kiwis with the skin on. I know that's a little bit of sounds weird, but you can get almost 7 grams of fiber per kiwi simply by doing that. It sounds weird at first, but I promise you get over it and it's really good for you. Don't eat it like an apple because that's strange, but if you slice it up, you'll be able to enjoy it that way. Again, more fiber supports steadier energy, healthier blood sugar responses, better digestion, improves the entire body. And because a lot of these foods tend to be quite low in calorie, you don't need to worry about calories. You can really load up on vegetables and make sure that they're just another common part of your meals. So, brain and mental health. It's a topic that's becoming more and more popular. We're talking about the mind-gut connection. Again, we spoke about how they're directly connected through something called the vagus nerve, but also through chemical pathways. A lot of those microchemicals are influencing things you might not be aware of. Your mood, your stress, how reactive you might be, even your sleep quality. So examples like if you feel stressed and you feel butterflies in your stomach, those are direct demonstrations of how the mind and gut are connected. If you see food that you really like and you begin to salivate, your stomach begins to grumble. These are direct showings of how interconnected these items are. So again, by supporting it through more fiber and so on, you'll find yourself having less hunger pangs, more steadier focus, especially as fiber and variety goes up. And then the last area of connection between the microbiome and other areas of health that I want to talk about is the skin. So a lot of people might not realize that microbial signals can actually influence your hormone palettes. So that means your skin clarity as well. When your gut is happy, you might see less flare-ups, less redness, again, demonstrating that overall connectedness. So more steady routines, more plant fiber, will correlate with better skin weeks later. And I would say that's a big component to keep in mind. Microbiome health will take time. It's not something where you change your diet and the next day everything is improved. You need to be patient with these things, but with that patience, you will reap the benefits. Okay, so this phrase is a little bit cheesy, but it conveys a very important concept that minor actions or decisions can have outsized impacts on your overall health. One of the things that I want to talk about first is diversity. So diversity is a concept that exists in microbiome science where more different bacteria is always a benefit. But diversity is also extremely important in diet and nutrition. So there is this common concept of having 30 different plants a week. It doesn't mean 30 portions of plants, but 30 different types. So that can include vegetables, fruits, beans, herbs, spices, all of the above. Typical recommendations are actually a very popular scientist based in London that's brought up the concept of having a diversity jar, so a jar that's filled with crushed up nuts, seeds, spices that you can sprinkle on your foods. Keeping canned vegetables around is good. Keeping frozen fruit and frozen vegetables is also a good option. In many cases, frozen versions are fresher than the fresh versions you're getting at the store. And I believe in the UK you have 5 a day is a common concept. I think that's promoted a lot. So that can kind of get you to that 30 types per week rather quickly. Fermented foods is another huge passion of mine. I do test series on social media where I'll take a sample before and I'll test out an intervention, and then I will take another sample afterwards to give people an objective example of how these different supplements, foods, diets actually impact your microbiome. For my test series, I ate 5 different servings of fermented food a day for about a week. Took a sample before and after, and through that period I was able to very clearly demonstrate an improvement in effectively all of my markers that were present in only a week. I was impressed by that type of data. You don't need to start with 5 servings a day though. 1 serving a day is good. Maybe bring it up to 3. Items like kombucha, kefir, if you want to take one from Activia over there, they're giving out free samples. Kimchi, sauerkraut, these are all excellent examples. If you're not accustomed to eating more fiber, or you're not accustomed to eating fermented foods, definitely start slowly. Drink a lot of water while you're eating them. You might get a little bit of gas, but that will subside with time. And certainly always look at the labels. Ideally, you're seeing names of bacteria present, especially on yogurt. And you're avoiding any products that might have too much sugar, which tends to be hidden in a lot of dairy products out there. I always recommend seeing fermented foods as an ingredient. Don't feel like you just have to eat a bowl of sauerkraut or something like that. But if you put some kimchi into a salad, sauerkraut into a sandwich, you can use kefir as a base for a salad dressing, kombucha as well, adds a lovely tang and also brings some differentiation to what you're eating. So all great concepts. Another big one is, again, fiber up and ultra processed down. If you feed your microbes a very well diverse diet and bring down the processed foods, you will see the benefit of reduced inflammation, but also more satisfaction with your meals. Way I like to think about this quite often is that before you go and start cutting everything out, which is very hard to do and probably going to make you go back to those foods rather quickly, think about adding new beneficial foods in. So throw beans into pasta you're eating, switch white bread maybe for whole wheat, keep fruits and nuts around so that you can snack on them more readily. These are all great examples. Excuse me here because I see it says potato chips and not crisps, but I think it still works. But this is a perfect example of how eating healthier foods that provide you more nutritional content, don't always have to be a downgrade. So 1 ounce of fiber, 1 ounce of potato chips is going to give you 1 gram of fiber. However, 3 cups of popcorn will provide you with 4 grams of fiber. So not only can you eat more, which for snack foods is always great, you're also getting far more fiber as a result of it. And lastly, foundations beat biohacks. Things like sleep, things like daily movement, things like stress hygiene are going to be better than any quick fix. We work with a lot of people who will show up to a phone call with me with maybe 30 supplements, and then ask them, okay, let's pause on that. Let's ask how you're sleeping, how your stress is, how your nutrition is, because if those things aren't a foundation of your health, no supplement is going to make a difference. How you can incorporate some of these things, 10-minute walks after meals, taking 10 minutes for yourself before you go to bed. I like to stretch, I like to read, and providing yourself with almost these downshift habits when you find you're stressed, even if it's a simple breath, can make a huge impact. So, high recommendation for you all in the next week. Try and incorporate a new plant into your diet, maybe 1 a day, a new fermented food, maybe swap out a ultra-processed food, try a 10-minute walk after eating, try it 10 minutes for yourself before you go to bed. 10 minutes is very little, but the impacts are quite stark, I can promise you. And also track how you feel, because these changes are not going to happen overnight. That's something I can assure you. But if you build on them, it's not about being perfect. It's okay if you miss a certain day. If you stay small, if you stay curious, you will see the momentum build over time and the improvements that come with it. So the big truth, your gut health is quite personal. Again, 2 people can eat the same meal and have completely different effects, and that is perfectly normal. But if you take this strategy of looking at a baseline, a small period, really observing how you're feeling, adding 1 or 2 changes. Don't change everything, but 1 or 2 things per week, whatever it might be, and then check in with yourself again over weeks as opposed to a day. you will see the changes that are present. If you're able to access microbiome testing, it can certainly bring your health to the next level. Again, if symptoms are sticking around, if you want to trial a new change, or you're optimizing your health, all are great options. But try and take samples over time, whether that be a test kit that offers multiple samples or just taking a test kit more than once. Great. So to close, if you remember one thing, I would love you to remember this. It's that health begins in the gut. If you support your gut, it does a lot more than just help you digest. And if you nurture your gut with the right tools, such as fiber, such as mindfulness, and so on, you will see a difference in how you feel. So for the next 7 days, try 2 of those habits, see how you feel. Feel free to message me on social media, let me know how they're changing, and be patient because, again, the benefits will come. Thank you.
It's really about trying to understand the data that's coming out that's indicating that potentially we might be able to diagnose, or the equivalent of a fit test, for example, through the microbiome as to whether you have colon cancer or not, or bowel cancer. Is that a real reality, or is this just fake news?
No, is my voice loud enough if I speak like this for everyone? Yeah, so that is definitely somewhere the science is moving. What I think is important to appreciate is that a fit test and, a fit test and even potentially using some other calprotectin test, whatever it might be, those still need to be in many cases validated by colonoscopy. So the idea is that can allow people to avoid unnecessary colonoscopies. It's much easier to take a stool sample than it is to take a colonoscopy, for example. And make sure that the people that actually need those services are receiving them and that people are not unnecessarily receiving them. So it's the beginning of a diagnosis, but it's not a diagnosis in isolation. It's paired with other monitoring technology.
And is it through a stool sample that you look at the microbiome?
Yes, so
You still have to do a stool sample.
you still have to do a stool sample. I've tested every stool sample collection method that is out there, I assure you. So we put a lot of effort into making sure that our test is as easy as possible to use. All you do is swab your toilet paper, for example, as opposed to having to go into a bucket and putting it in the freezer and all these types of things. Ours is room temperature stable. But yes, you are ultimately taking a stool sample, but I promise, I'm extremely biased, but I promise it is much easier than you think. And if you have done one before and don't want to go through the experience again, I promise you should look into our test because it just makes it far easier to get the sample collected. Thanks for having me today. Thank you.